Welcome back to Great Day. For many of us, travel is a luxury, but for our next guest, it became something more. After losing his wife and travel partner in a tragic accident, our next guest took trips as a way to cope with his grief. Along the way, he discovered it wasn't the places, but the people who helped him unpack his emotional baggage, or at least rearrange some of it. Barry Hoffner wrote a book called Belonging to the World, a journey from grief to connection in every country on earth. He shares how human connection and shared experiences helped him to heal one story at a time. Where are you joining us from this morning, Barry?
Good morning. I'm joining you from Sausalito, California, which is just over the bridge from San Francisco.
All right. You, in 2017, lost your wife and your beloved travel partner. You saw her just a day after her 55th birthday, and she was heading off for a big adventure.
Yeah, it was just at the start of our empty nesting years. We had just put both our boys in college, and we had done some traveling earlier on in our life before kids. And she was an animal activist going to Southern Africa to work with some of the big animals that she loved. And I had just while she was in Africa, I just arrived in Dubai, ready to meet her the next day in Nairobi for the beginning of our first empty nesting trip, to learn in that airport hotel room that she had been killed in Botswana, sadly, by an elephant.
Something you couldn't even imagine that. And so life as you knew it was now gone, and you had to figure out, like, how do I put this back together and put meaning to this, right? You turned to travel to escape, something that kind of connected you to, and then things started to unfold for you. It became a way of healing.
Yeah, I went through a pretty dark period for a while. I call it sort of my year zero, sort of life before, and then what's life going to be after. And after a period of time, I realized I needed to step back into my life. I was retired, so I was in a way lucky to be able to choose how I was grieving. And I decided to take a trip overseas, and it was to Central Asia to run a half marathon. And I came back from that trip with my head really in a different place. And so I decided I needed to do more of that. I recognized in the beginning that I was just really traveling in a way to escape the memories of living in a big house without kids, without my wife. But what I found after a period of time was sort of the connections I was making with people were new, something that I hadn't as much experienced before. Maybe it's something that broke inside of me that kind of released this idea of like wanting to connect more. But the more I traveled, the more I realized that it was these connections that really were helping to heal me. And that's when I decided there was a book I needed to write about that.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, it's interesting because we focus on what makes us all different so often, as opposed to what makes us all human. And you were connecting with people even without a shared language. And I'm reminded of, as a child, I started my life out in Taipei, Taiwan. My next door neighbor, Teddy, he spoke Mandarin all day long. I spoke English all day long, and we would look at each other and nod and smile and play. It never dawned on us that we weren't speaking the same language, but yet we understood each other.
Yeah, there was this one incident where we were traveling, I believe it was in Ethiopia, on the highway, and we stopped for a call of nature break. And I got out of the bus or the van to see this big wedding party of Ethiopians up ahead, and I walked towards them kind of with my phone in a way asking if I could take a picture, and they beckoned me towards them. And as I got to them, I ended up taking selfies with every single one of them. They put their baby in my arm. They had me take a picture with the bride and groom. We didn't share a common language. And I walked out, and I walked out saying that was just an amazing 10-minute experience with people without a shared language. If people could just meet on the road in some way for just 10 minutes, the world would be a much safer place.
You also say that places that you often saw as dangerous felt different in person. I went to the favelas in Brazil, which is oftentimes seen as a very dangerous place. And when we went there, what we did was met people where they were. We celebrated their dance, we celebrated their culture, we celebrated their food, and they were so happy that somebody actually saw them as just people who are just trying to get by in the world.
Yeah, I mean, there are places that are way more objectively dangerous than where I live, but I also think sometimes like your brain goes to what you're seeing as opposed to what's underneath that. And sometimes I like during my travels, I felt like if I was traveling with the right intention, the right curiosity, the right giving of dignity, most times, often than not, like they turned out to be amazing experiences. And I had them in many of what are considered the world's most dangerous places. And I do understand when we read the headlines and we hear of these places like Iraq or Syria or Yemen, our minds go to war and things like that. But that's just not why I found. Maybe I'm lucky, but that is I found something different.
Yeah. A reviewer of your book said it is a love letter to the world at a very needed time of great divisiveness at home and overseas. And that's so many reasons why someone should read this book, because I think we get a little anxious about what's happening, whether it's down the street and around the corner from where we live or around the world. You listen to headlines every day and you think the world's in total chaos. But your book basically gives us more control of us and our own feelings. And you say grief removes the illusion of control.
Yeah, it's so important. And that's kind of like during my journey, just stepping outside into a very unfamiliar landscape and realizing that if I do that with intention, good things will happen. And I just can't control the outcome. But to take that risk and find that there's a lot of treasure out there if you do that. I learned that most of all when I lost Jackie, my wife. The illusion of control just leaves you, and I think it's easier to live without that idea of having to control everything. And by the way, you don't need to actually travel around the world to places like I did to find that sense of connection. I find myself even in my own community taking more interest in people, asking that extra question, maybe being a little less busy, kind of unleashes the level of connection that I hadn't had before.
Yeah. And I love in the title, Belonging to the World, that word belonging.
Yeah, I mean, when I lost Jackie, it just shattered my sense of belonging. I mean, she was the center of my family. I had two boys. I have two boys, three men and Jackie, and she really made the family run, and that was my sense of belonging. And when I lost that, I was broken for a while. But then I found like you can find belonging pretty much anywhere if you go with intention, with people and curiosity and interest. You can definitely find a sense of belonging almost anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And then your purpose. You created a foundation, the Caravan to Class Foundation, the Jackie Scholarship, fund scholarships for women in West Africa. 100% of the profits from the book go to those scholarships. Thank you so much for that. Okay, I'm going to end with a rapid fire question, and you either can answer this right away or you're going to go, ooh, ah, ah. If someone could go travel anywhere in the world they wanted to travel this summer, cost not prohibitive or anything at all, where would you say go?
Well, I think I'd save some of my best trips towards the end. The landscapes in Mongolia are some of the best I've seen anywhere.
Wow.
The spirituality of Bhutan was deeply felt, and the people and the different ethnic tribes of Papua New Guinea. They have 800 different languages there. So those three are at the top of my list. I saved them for the end of my trip.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and happy travels.
Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. You can buy Barry's book, Belonging to the World, wherever books are sold. All proceeds, again, go to the Jackie Scholarship to help women in West Africa pursue higher education.